Have you ever just stopped and thought, there has to be a better, easier way to get through life? To find success, love, maybe a little bit of wealth. Well, today we're diving into a really unique, kind of wild occult book from the 20th century by a guy named Al G. Manning. It claims to have the answer, promising a better way to live by plugging into some seriously primal forces. The book literally opens with this question. It's a cry for help that it immediately says, yup, I've got the answer. It just taps right into that universal feeling of struggle and promises a path that isn't just effective, but is actually, well, more fun. So what is this better way he's talking about? Okay, so the core idea is shockingly direct. Manning basically argues that the key isn't to fight against our most basic drives, but to grab hold of their, quote, omnipotent power. Through some pretty simple magical practices, the book claims you can start attracting everything you want, not just success, but health, wealth, and love. So this central question, isn't there a better way? It's the foundation for this entire system. It's all a response to that feeling of being stuck in the daily grind. Now, let's look at the engine that the book says is going to power this whole new path.
The entire system, and I mean all of it, revolves around one central figure, or really, a specific personification of energy. This isn't just about chanting spells. It's about making a friend, forming a real relationship. So, who is this key player?
And what's so interesting here is how Manning completely redefines Pan. Forget the goat-legged god from Greek mythology. In this system, Pan is the name he gives to the universal life force itself. It's that raw, personified drive in every single living thing to just be more alive, more joyous, more enthusiastic.
And the way you actually connect with this life force is through a philosophy he calls positive sensuality. Manning describes it as starting a warm and tender love affair with every living being. It's all about consciously seeking out and really appreciating pleasant sensations, which in turn makes you a more vibrant, more magnetic person. This right here is the fuel for all the magic that follows.
So how do you make first contact? Well, the book lays out a really simple, sensory-focused ritual. You get your space ready, you anoint yourself with a fragrant oil, and you say an invitation out loud. The key part is to gaze with your eyes half closed until you start to perceive what he calls an aura, or just a sense of presence. And when you do, the greeting isn't some complex, ancient incantation. It's a super friendly and enthusiastic, high-powerful Pan.
All right, so once you've made friends with this universal life force, the book doesn't just, leave you hanging. It gives you a whole toolkit, a set of magical systems designed to tackle life's biggest problems head-on.
And this system is really practical. For every major problem, there's a specific Pan solution. So for sickness, you've got panacea, and that involves working with Puck and the pixies. For poverty, there is panning for gold with gnomes and trolls. And for loneliness, you use Panamore, which is a ritual to attract a personal spirit lover. You can see the pattern here, right? Manning connects these real-world problems with specific nature spirits, turning magic into this very practical, almost project-based thing. And just to give you a sense of how, well, unconventional these solutions are, the section on healing, panacea, leans heavily on humor. Manning shares this wild story about a man who gets a terminal diagnosis, rents a hotel room, and just watches comedy films until he literally laughs away his cancer. The idea is that laughter is this powerful tool that relaxes the body and lets that life force do its healing work.
Okay, so moving beyond solving life's day-to-day problems, the system also offers a set of more advanced, almost martial techniques. These are for psychic protection and for personal influence. This quote just perfectly captures the attitude of the whole system when you're facing a threat. Manning tells this personal story about being on the astral plane when he's confronted by this terrifying vision of the god Osiris. But instead of freaking out, his programmed response of love and enthusiasm kicks in, and he completely disarms this scary figure with a cheerful, "Hi, pussycat." And what's so crucial here is that this psychic protection isn't built from force or aggression, but from positive emotion. The shield, which he calls panoply, is constructed with a lining made from the substance of love, which he describes as being softer than chinchilla fur, and an outer armor made from laminated layers of good humor and laughter. But it's not all just passive defense. The book outlines some surprisingly aggressive techniques. You've got pan-nipotence, which is a ritual to create a whirlwind of panic fear to send at your enemies. There's pan-psychic karate, which is designed to turn an attacker's psychic energy right back on them. But maybe the most intense of all is pan-dominance. And yeah, this is probably the most direct and controversial technique in the whole book. The method for pan-dominance involves using your raw sexual energy to influence people.
The practitioner is told to visualize a wild lovemaking scene with the target person whenever they think of them. The theory is that this broadcasts subliminal signals that, and I'm quoting here, makes them willing to do virtually anything to please you. So the big question here is, what's really going on? Is this a purely magical act, some kind of radical psychic power, or is it more of a psychological trick, a way of consciously manipulating the kind of subliminal, nonverbal cues that we're all sending and receiving all the time, but we're just not usually aware of it? So after all of these techniques for getting wealth, for health, for influence, what's the actual point of it all? Well, the book argues that all the material stuff you get is really just a side effect of a much deeper, much more important goal.
Pan-ning uses this old joke to illustrate the ultimate state of being that the whole system is trying to get you to. See, it's not about constant gratification. It's about achieving a state of perpetual, joyous anticipation. It's about living with that constant feeling that something absolutely wonderful is always just about to happen.
So in the end, Pan Magic is a system designed to completely rewire your whole outlook. The goal isn't just to get things, but to fall so deeply in love with the actual process of living, with the universal life force itself, that your entire existence just becomes one big, happy, romantic adventure.
And that leaves us with this one last, pretty provocative thought. In a world that so often teaches us to suppress or control our most basic, our most animalistic drives, this book suggests the exact opposite. It asks, what if the real key to power, to happiness, and even to some kind of spiritual fulfillment isn't about rising above these drives, but about embracing them with total joy and enthusiasm?